As long you buy a figure in a lying pose, does not matter which figure by which company, then indirectly you're buying something that takes up a lot of space. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven from X Kurogane Studio today with a scale figure review, and it has been years since the last time I reviewed a figure from Arknights. At least 2 years I think, and my last review was also an Amiya figure, a fairly cheap one. But this time around, we have something fairly premium, and a few weeks back, during my figure unboxing, I mistook this figure for being something made by Good Smile Company. No, this is another Good Smile Arts Shanghai figure. Everything goes to them nowadays, but there is a bit of good news and a bit of bad news with this one. We'll get to that in a second. So what we are looking at over here, this is Good Smile Arts Shanghai's 1/7 scale Amiya, and they call this Solo Around the World version, which was released on the 27th of February 2026 in China, and a month later in Japan for everyone else, 26th of March 2026. And the official price before tax and shipping is 25,545 Japanese yen. So 27,000 yen with the Japanese tax, which is normally the price you pay in places like Ami. So this is a fairly premium scale figure. However, the amount I paid for this figure, an absolute bloodbath of a bargain bin. I paid less than 600 Chinese yuan for it, like 575, 585 or so. That is before shipping and tax, of course. Shipping wasn't cheap because the box is big. But more than 50% off. Yes, I paid close to 18,000 Japanese yen equivalent for her before shipping. And that was possible because I used Superbuy to get it from a Taobao seller. And Superbuy is today's sponsor for this figure review. Superbuy is a proxy service for you to purchase anime figures directly from China's Taobao or any other Chinese website for the matter. You can go ahead to Taobao, search for the anime figures that you want, copy and paste the link over into their search engine, and you will be able to buy any anime figures from a Chinese seller really cheaply, sometimes below market price compared to a Japanese website. And you can always head to the Superbuy subreddit r/Superbuy to ask any questions, where they actually have a representative who will answer all of your questions. This service, this website has been around for 13, 14 years, I think. So they're extremely reliable, and I use their service myself. Moving on to the dimensions of this figure, if we look at the length of this violin box over here from front to back, you're looking at 30 centimeters or 12 inches. Which to me is a reasonable size, though I've seen people online complaining on how big she takes up in terms of the amount of space, but that is nothing new. As long you buy a figure in a lying pose, does not matter which figure by which company, then indirectly you're buying something that takes up a lot of space. Horizontal space that is, right? Like recently there is this Asuma Toki figure by Alter, the Barney version, right? She's lying down as well, and the base is lifted just like this one over here. I'm not sure if that one will bargain bin, but guess what? There is a likelihood that might happen because people would realize it much later, or I bought something that take up way too much space and they sell it. Yeah. So length is 30 centimeters. The highest height up to the top over here, that would be 25 centimeters, and the width is 17 centimeters. So these numbers are identical to what Good Smile Arts Shanghai provided. Meanwhile, for the box, oh, where did I put the box? It is right there. I need to retrieve the box because I have nice things to say about it. Alright, so my opinions about this box are very simple. This is a 10 out of 10 box. Nice work, Good Smile Arts Shanghai. I really like this box. Like, this is so tough. Listen to that, right? It is so tough, so thick that this is almost impossible to dent. At least the corners are impossible to dent. And even on a flat front surface like this, it is still not easy to cave in. So this box is as good as it gets. This is something I want to see in every anime figure. This kind of box over here, though I understand it is impossible, but at least for the premium scale figures, this is the box which I expect to see from every brand. So nice work, Good Smile Arts Shanghai. Meanwhile, for the assembly process, this is probably the biggest complaint with this figure. Well, there are zero magnets, which is a bit disappointing. I know that she does not need it. Just going by the grooves of the interior of this violin box over here, you can stick Amiya on it, and then you can stick all the parts on it just based off friction. Just align them according to how they were designed, and everything would stay in place. To be fair, most of the parts over here do stay in place, except for the head, which falls off very easily. Like if I were to shake the figure, it is not too bad, but yes, this cover over here, it might pop off. As you can see, yeah, this is a bit scary, right? So I do not want to break anything, so I will stop shaking the figure over here. But let me put this back in place. Yes, I just remembered on how difficult it is to insert this wooden stick over here on the right side, but that is a small complaint really. I think this is just a matter of getting used to the correct insertion angle for the part over here. Overall, the assembly was actually easier than expected. I get intimidated easily when I see many parts because I had bad experiences in the past breaking things by accident. So putting the figure together is not really a big issue. The issue is that there were parts where I was expecting magnets to hold them together properly, but they were not there. So that is about the only complaints I have, not too much actually. Moving on to the sculpt, this is a very elegant and luxurious looking figure. She looks very expensive, even though the detail levels are just above average. Definitely not the most detailed figure I've reviewed at this price point of 27,000 yen, but I'm okay with that because this figure is pretty much flawless no matter where I look, which is very surprising to me, you know. Every time I review a GSAS figure, I expect to find something wrong with it. At least something minor, but there are none of it over here. No ugly gaps or seam lines, no mold lines, no excess glue leaking out, no uneven or rough surfaces. I was pleasantly surprised. So with the sculpt over here, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10 for the entire figure, plus the box and everything. Of course, I could have given it higher, but when you think about it, this figure looks detailed and expensive, mostly because of the paintwork, the colors, right? So the colors will get a higher score later on. But the sculpt, look at the skirt, the folds and everything, the detail levels are like just above average, nothing too unique over here. Meanwhile, for the face, it is an easy 9.5. Let's go with 9.5 out of 10. Looks exactly like Amiya, looks like what was being promised in the official artwork or product photos, though I wouldn't expect GSAS to have any trouble over here. So far, every figure they released, the faces all look right. Moving on to the paintwork, this is where I'm even more impressed because once again, there are zero problems that I could find on this figure. No faults at all. No paint bleeding, no paint transfer, no scratches or weird spots, which was the case with the last 4 or 5 GSAS figures I reviewed, but none of that over here. I wonder if Good Smile Arts Shanghai is doing it on purpose to Nikkei figures because they know that I buy Nikkei figures and I will have something to complain about. But this figure over here is impeccably painted no matter where I look. Heavy shading in every part of a dress. On a hair, there are many different shades of blue and brown over there. This figure looks expensive exactly because of the paintwork. It doesn't feel like they are cutting any corners if you look at the figure from a superficial standpoint, the outermost surface, which is the paintwork. So I really appreciate what Good Smile Arts Shanghai has done over here, and I'm giving it a score of 9 out of 10 for the paintwork. Meanwhile, for the base, well, there is no base over here. So I will regard this box over here to be the base. Now, this base over here, this is something more subjective. Some people is going to hate this figure for taking up too much space. And I find it pretty hard to give this a very objective score. On one hand, stability is something I would say above average, even though there are no magnets. You know, most of the parts stay in place when I shake it. The head is more of a 50-50 chance where it might slide off or sometimes it doesn't. Really depends on how well you put it. But stability score and base design, they are two separate things. The stability score, I would give it a 7 out of 10, which is actually not bad. Meanwhile, for the entire base, I'm giving the base a 9.5 out of 10. It is beautiful, it is a joy to look at, and it is something that you don't come by often. You know, a lot of Dakimakura style figures, lying pose figures, what you get for the base? You get something fluffy, you get like a hairy base, the white fluffy thing as a base. I also did that with the Asuma Toki figure. Like, regardless of whether you buy something expensive or low budget, you usually get a plain matte base which is made of fabric material, right? This is nothing quite like that. So I'm giving it a high score of 9.5 out of 10 for the base. This is excellent overall. And the stands over here are very stable. So moving on to the conclusions of my review today. This is actually a fairly positive review, but it is also a very polarizing figure where some people are not happy with like what I complained, parts not being secure, and also the figure taking up too much space, which in my opinion is a really dumb complaint. So this is actually a figure that I can highly recommend, especially now we are looking at bargain bins, which I have no idea why she is binning because there is not much wrong with the figure. Official price 27,000 yen, but over in Ami at the time of filming this video, she is in Ami's sale section for 20,000 yen. There's one heck of a bargain, 7,000 yen off. Go and get yours over there. If you look at Amazon Japan, there are some sellers selling her brand new at 20,000 yen as well. So there's really no reason to go to Amazon Japan just to go through a proxy. You can get it on Ami while you still can. Meanwhile, for me, I got it for even cheaper than that. It was the equivalent of 18,000 yen. That is the amount I paid for her, which is one heck of a bargain. Like, it is a no-brainer purchase. If you are a big fan of Arknights and you find her for 18 or 20,000 yen, go and get yours. However, I'm not the biggest ever Arknights fan. I'm interested in very few select characters, and Amiya is far from my favorite character. I just got attracted to how beautiful this figure is as a display piece. I like the Neo Yvonne by Mietos, which is on pre-order. Carl Sid as well. Those are more of my kind of figure, right? This is not really my type of figure. This is more idol-like rather than pretty girls with big guns, big swords kind of figure. But anyways, she still comes as highly recommended. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more anime figure content. And until then, I'll see you soon. Goodbye.